previous video, we talked about project dependencies, and in this video, we are going to explain the project structure, and I will also briefly explain how your project is loaded inside the web browser. So the first folder here is a folder called Node Modules, and here you will find basically all the dependencies that are installed inside your project. The second folder is a public folder, and right now you will find two files here. The first one is index.html file, and this is basically the entry point of your application, and the second file is just a favicon. The third folder, and let's say the most important folder for you, is a source folder where you will start writing your source code or the components of your application. And inside the source folder, there is a folder called assets, and here you will save the images and some additional assets of your project. Inside the components, you will write additional components of your project, and right now there is a single component here called Hello World. Inside the router folder, you will find the one file which is called index.js, and you will find basically the configuration of your router dependency or router component of your Vue project. And basically, when you want to add a new route, you will just go to this file and you will add another route. But we will cover that in some later video inside the course. Inside the store folder, you will find again a simple file called index.js, and you will basically write here your store mutations, actions, modules, and so on and so on. But as I said previously, we will cover this more deeply in later videos. Inside the views folder, you will find some additional components that you will use inside your project. And app is the main component of your application. So this is one of the first components that's being loaded when your application is starting. The main.js, this is also important file here. The main.js will actually create instance of your Vue application, and it will inject this inside your index.html file. I will cover this briefly. And the rest of the files are just configuration files for the plugins that we previously installed. So the question is how your application is being loaded. So once you start your application, and you can start your application by opening a new terminal here, and you can write something like npm run serve. And if you are wondering how I know where this command is coming from, if you go to the file package.json, you will find here a section called scripts. And there are three scripts defined right now. The first one is serve, the second one is build, and the third one is lint. So in order to run one of these scripts, you can write npm run and then the name of the script. And what's going to happen there, so when you write this, the following action here is going to be executed inside the command line. So instead of writing npm run serve, you could write vue -cli -service, space, and then serve. But this is more convenient, and I will use this, and because the whole IT industry is using the following notation. So when I hit enter here, my application will start, and I could then open my application in a web browser. So I will copy this, I will open quickly the web browser, I will paste it here, and then here is my application. But the question is, how is this happening? What's happening in the background so this page appears? In order to understand that, let's go to the public folder. And there you will find a file called index.html. And inside in this index file, there is just one single div defined. It's called this div with the ID app. So you remember this ID. And under that, there is a comment where it's written build files will be auto injected. So if you go to the web browser, and if you want to view a page source of this application, you will see that same comment here, and you will see that same ID or that same div that we have seen previously, and with the ID app. but under there are some JavaScript files that were automatically injected inside our application. So okay, now that we know what's happening here, one of the JavaScript files that is automatically injected is this main.js file. And this main.js file is just loading some of the components here, and the router and the store. And then here we are creating just a new instance of the Vue application. And inside this instance, we are injecting the router, store, and the first component that we want to render here is this app component. So what's going to happen here is this main.js file is executed. We create an object or instance of the Vue application, and we connect this application to the app div. And this app div is actually defined here. So what's going to happen is we are creating a Vue object or Vue application, and we are just injecting that application inside this div. So once our application is injected, the first component that's going to be rendered is this app component. And if we go to the app component, then inside this component, we will just print some links. This is the first link, this is the second link. And if you go to the website, and you will see this home link and about link. And after that, we will then load some additional stuff that we will cover later on. But basically what will happen here, and if you go to the router, then when there is no route, then the home component should be loaded. And if you go to the home component, then you will see that there is a Vue logo and hello world component. And if I go back here, then you will see this Vue framework logo and some additional stuff here. So that's how your application is initially loaded. So I will go back briefly and explain it one more time. So the first thing that's being opened is this index.html file, where the Webpack will automatically inject some of the JavaScript files. And one of the JavaScript files is the main.js. The main.js will just create instance of the Vue application. There it will inject the router and the store. And here we are also defining that this application should be loaded inside the div with the ID app. And that div is actually, it's defined here in this index.html file. And once that happens, then the Vue will start loading the first component, and we instructed the Vue framework that our first component that we want to load here is this app component. And that's basically it. That's how the Vue application is started, and that's what's happening in the background when we actually visit this link of our application, or the URL where our application is running. And this is where we finish our introduction videos of the Vue framework. In the next section, we are going to start building new components, and we will basically start going deeper inside the Vue framework itself. Thank you for watching.